Morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in your part of the world. I hope that your day is off to a good start, or it's wrapping up on a high note. I just want to say hello and welcome. So I am Chika, the host of Connecting the Dots series. Welcome to Connecting the Dots series, where we share, explore, and celebrate the unique tales that shape who we are. Today, this conversation is about understanding how our past influences are present and how our past influences are present and discovering the incredible insights that come from connecting the dots in our lives. Today we have Dr. Glory Edozien. Glory Edozien. For those who may be coming across you for the first time, before we delve into your introduction, I'd like to share a few things people have to say about who you are and the work that you do. So, this is what people are saying about you. No pressure. When Glory says she's the visibility expert, you best believe she isn't kidding. Choosing to work with Glory is one of the best decisions I have made this year. I'd recommend her any day. I was looking for someone who would understand how stuck I was and help bring clarity to being seen as a leader. Glory understood this perfectly, and through the program, not only did I begin to build clarity, I found a tribe of authentic women who were equally finding their voice. Another person has to say, I am of the view that Glory should rename her course as she unlocks something more fundamental than visibility. She took me on a journey of self-discovery and repositioning. I gained skills that empower me on my personal branding journey every day, taking ownership and responsibility for my brand. So, Glory,
Mm.
what do you have to add to that? Let us know,
Oh
who
wow!
are you? Who is this amazing lady?
First of all, Chika, I would say I've never actually been introduced that way, and I think that's a fantastic way to actually be introduced by what people say about you. So what would I add to that? I think what we can add to that is Glory is the I'll do the official and the personal, right? So
All
she
right.
is a LinkedIn visibility and thought leadership coach, really focused on breaking down the barriers that prevent women from attracting top tier leadership opportunities and global opportunities. So that's who I am, what I present to the world. But underneath, Glory is just a happy, bubbly girl who is on a mission to to help people be seen, but also to see herself, find her true essence, live an authentic life where she's achieving her goals and just being the best version of herself. So that's who I am professionally and that's who I am personally.
All right. I think that's a nice way to start off. So, what is one thing that you might currently be working on or engaged in or looking forward to that excites you?
That excites me. So, work-wise, I am working on the launch of our community for African women. So, on the continent and in diaspora, it's called Ascent. Ascent is a powerful community of female executives coming together, building influence, building visibility to go global, to attract thought leadership opportunities, to attract board roles and the like. So I'm really excited about that. We recently came up with the top 100 career women in Africa list, top 100 career
Nice.
women in Africa list, which was amazing. And so, really now looking forward to building that community out and getting real, tangible results for African women on the continent and in diaspora.
Amazing, amazing. So I did a little bit of digging. So we have alumni of Global Shapers, a World Economic Forum. We have
Mhm.
undergrad in geography and regional planning with education. Is that right? Masters
Yeah.
in information systems for environmental monitoring, PhD in real estate and planning. So let's delve into the real story behind the titles, the
Hmm.
letters before your name. So you started
Hmm.
off with geography and regional planning with education and ended up in with a PhD in real estate and planning. So walk us through that, that journey.
Oh my God, Chika, that's like asking me to collapse 10 years of my life into 5 minutes.
Well,
Right?
that's the highlight. How did you go from geography and now you're a visibility LinkedIn leadership coach?
Yeah, so I think first things first, I should say, I was meant to study medicine. So I was meant to be a medical doctor. My
Okay.
father was a gynecologist. So from when I came out of the womb, they had designated me, thou shalt become a doctor. Um, but I didn't have the scores, right? So in Nigeria here, we do something called JAM, which I think is the equivalent of like your SATs in the States.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like A levels type thing for those in the UK. And we also had like SSCs, which is like A level, O level type thing. And I just didn't get the grades to study medicine. And so we're looking for different universities that would take me. And my father was just like, I didn't even know at the time that it was possible to study geography. I didn't even know because in geography class in school, when I was
Mm-hmm.
in high school, secondary school, I was always asleep. I used to sit at the back of the class and I would just be sleeping. So I didn't even know it was possible to study geography, right? And I got into this university to study biochemistry. But while I was doing my registration process, I didn't have some of the scores, right,
I
to go
see.
into biochemistry. My father just said to the admissions person, I'm not going home with this girl. So what can you give her? This is like a typical African father, right? What course can she do here? Which of the courses? And the woman said, she can do geography education, geography regional planning with education. My father said,
Mm.
register. So that is how I started with that degree. And I always just thought I would change. I would change after a year. I'll go do something else, blah, blah, blah. But turned out I sat down and I studied and I was actually really good at it. So I was, top 10% of my class. Ended up graduating with like a 2.1, which is like a really high score. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to major in this. I started, and which is how I went from sort of geography and regional planning to sort of more environmental management systems, information systems for environmental monitoring, and then
Mm-hmm.
went back to my planning background in terms of real estate and environmental planning, right? For my PhD. And then, so you would think at this point, I would be okay. I finally got it because when I got the PhD, my father took my certificates because literally it was his.
At
He
least
took
you
my
ended up being a doctor.
Yes, exactly. So he took the certificate and he gave me a photocopy. So after my graduation ceremony, after having the graduation dinner, the next day we went to like a business center. We photocopied my certificates. He took the original and gave me the photocopy. Like, okay. So I'm like, okay, maybe the real owner of the certificate has it
Mm-hmm.
now, whatever. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a job and I was just very unfulfilled. And it was really a full circle moment for me because I was saying to myself, after all of this, after being in higher education for like 9 years, you finally get this amazing job, you're doing well, and you're feeling unfulfilled, right? But I just couldn't shake that feeling of unfulfillment. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started I thought, okay, if I find other women that are doing amazing things with their lives or with their careers, maybe that would inspire me to find what is missing. And it was in that quest of doing that, I started. One thing people always used to ask me was like, how do you know this person? How can you just enter this room and talk to this person? Even in my career, people used to say, how did you get this job? How did you get that opportunity? How did you do this? And that's what made me start to see that, I was actually really skilled in networking, visibility, building influence, and building power in my career. And I realized that it wasn't something that everybody had. Because the thing I find is that the skills that come to us naturally, we kind of despise them. We don't take them as serious. We assume that because they're so easy, we think everybody else has them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I that's what I assumed. And then I started realizing that, oh no, this is actually something special. And I started honing in on it. And that's that's how I am here today.
Really? So, this knack for networking, being very comfortable connecting with others, is that something that you identified very early in your career? Or
No.
was this something as a child? You were just that, will I say, extroverted, introverted individual?
So I think I'm a blend of I'm an omnivert, right? So I'm a blend
Okay.
of both. So I do need silence and quiet in order to present my extroverted self. But I'm very happy maneuvering between the two. So I think what made me really see that aspect of me was the questions. Obviously, I had coaches that helped me really just question how do I show up in the world, right? And I realized how I show up is through engagement. I enjoy engaging with people, finding out about them, and that creates a level of rapport. It makes it easy for me to leverage those connections, that rapport.
Mm-hmm.
And it has helped me. So I'll give you an example. I remember one of the jobs I had, the person before me was very smart in terms of like she was like a science major, right? So she really knew like environmental sciences and all of that. And that was how she showed up in the world. We had technical knowledge. And when I got her job, I mean, there was just no way I could compete with her expertise. But what I used to succeed in that role was my network. So I was able to bring in, hundreds of millions of naira at the time to my company based on building robust relationships with our relevant clients. So this helped me to see that, there's more than one way to show up. When she was on the role, she was successful, but she majored on her technical expertise, and that's why people came to the company. With me, I was great at stakeholder management. I was great at relationship building. I was great at understanding what the client wanted. I was great at communication, and this built trust with the organizations. So, but it involved a lot of introspection, Chika, right? So I didn't get here overnight. And it also involved ownership of my skills. Very rarely do you see, I don't know what it's like in the States, but in Africa, for most African women or most women who have been raised in Africa and then maybe they are now in diaspora, it's very rarely do you see women own their expertise in a powerful way. And what I mean is saying things like, I'm great at this, I'm great at this, I'm great at that. Because we were taught, that empty barrels make the most noise. You shouldn't compliment yourself. Other people should compliment you, and these types of things. So I really had to go through that process of understanding my value, how I show up in the world, and communicating that in a way that isn't bashful, it isn't forceful, it isn't aggressive, but it is the truth and it is fact, you know?
Interesting. When you were talking about how we're conditioned as women, because I'm sure this doesn't apply just to women in Africa or women in Nigeria, not to celebrate our strengths. I was thinking about the phrase that came to mind was performative humility. That was what came to mind, right? And sometimes we take pride in that. I don't have to, I know I am. And so I don't have to make noise about what it is that I bring. But, like they say, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And I
Yeah.
like what you said about finding that balance, because as much as, yes, we would like to celebrate our strengths, there is a way where it can be off-putting, where you're coming across as just making noise, right? So there has to be substance that backs the claims to competence, the claims to expertise, the claims to being a doer, an executor, the claims to somebody who sees the big picture, understands what the overall or overarching goal of an organization is, and knowing where you can add value.
So Chika, I completely agree with you, but I also like to add another strand to that level of thinking if I can. Right? I always hear recently there's been a conversation across the world about women getting opportunities based on merit, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you will hear things like, the role shouldn't just go to someone because they're a particular color or they look a certain way or they're a particular gender. It should be based on merit. And I want anyone that's listening to this to think back to rooms that they've sat on where they were with leaders and they were wondering to themselves, how did you get this role? You know, there's this, honestly, like I think we just really have to be honest. At a certain point in your career, yes, meritorious appointments happen, but sometimes it has nothing to do with merit. Nothing. Sometimes it's purely about, I mean, I have clients who have gone for board opportunities, board roles, and they would say to them, you didn't get through because the chemistry wasn't right.
I
How is
see.
that? How is that merit? How is that
Mhm.
competency? You know what I mean? They would say to them, there was just something. There was just something that wasn't there. So I think, sometimes we say these things about, having the substance, having the this, but I think that that's a chokehold that keeps women back as well. This never ending treadmill of building substance. Meanwhile, there are people out there that are taking seats, taking opportunity, and building the substance as they go along. You know, so yeah, so I think it's high time we really have this conversation about merits and what it
And
really means. Yeah.
and to piggyback off of what you just said, what you just shared, you had mentioned how in the role where your colleague brought in a lot of technical expertise, you realized early that that wasn't your strength, but you leveraged your network. So, to your point, sometimes those opportunities come because people know you outside of your work. Maybe they like your personality. They feel that you will be easy to work with. You're resourceful. You are a go-getter. And these are things that maybe an average stranger who is not familiar with who you are will be quick to dismiss and say, well, you're not exactly the right fit. Nothing tangible, but we know that it might be those things that we don't see that play a big role in our interactions with each other, which is, I like this person's aura, or I like this person's uh, disposition or countenance, or they're very
Energy,
energy. Yes, yes. Oh, I know young people say aura, however you want to define that, right? So yes, tapping into networks might also be the way that you get these opportunities that are not advertised on LinkedIn. It might just be in the course of a conversation. Somebody says, "Oh, I came across this. Is this something you might be interested in?" Right?
completely, completely. I mean, recently I got offered an opportunity. I don't think that opportunity came to me because I'm an expert in that sector. That opportunity came to me because I was in the network. The people in the network were aware that I was looking for that opportunity. And also, they believed that I had the prerequisite skills. Now, if you to excel in that opportunity. Now, if you lined up 10 other women who didn't know about the opportunity and not in that network, you could say that they merited that role above me, right? But they're not in the network. They're not telling people that they want the opportunity. So sometimes, but they are building substance. They're getting all the certificates. So this is the gap that I see, right? A lot of times, men are in social circles, they are playing golf, they're doing different things. And this is not a women against men type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
just a wake-up call that women need to be more strategic. That a lot of the things that we think don't matter sometimes are the only things that matter, right? And it's just being aware of that and making those shifts in your career where it's needed.
So when you say, and you know how I feel about the word strategic, so we're gonna delve into that a little bit more. So when you mentioned um, making your circle aware, I think that's very, very key, right? Um, because if you don't talk about it, there's no way of me knowing that that is something that is of interest to
Mm-hmm.
you. So for that person that is dealing with And it's normal. Sometimes, like you said, sometimes we play down what it is that comes easy to us, and other people can see the value that we can bring to the table. So even when you are approached, it could be a situation where you're like, I don't think I'm confident enough. Imposter syndrome kicks in. You start looking for 10,001 reasons why you shouldn't, because in your mind, that it will stretch you. And maybe some part of you knows that you can do it, but you're like, I don't know if I want to take that on. How do you move from that point onwards? Because what will happen is, if people keep on presenting opportunities and that is your answer, well, I don't think I'm fault, but they can see the value. At some point, those offers might not be coming your way as often, or at some point they'll stop making you aware of those opportunities if they know that maybe mentally you're not prepared to take on that role.
I think that's an excellent question, Chika. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. I was just before I dialed into this call, I had a call with a lady in South Africa, top leader in her field, spent 35 years in her career, and then retired. Her goal was, when she retired, she was going to start up like a bespoke company, right? Now, unfortunately, as she retired, her 92-year-old mom fell ill, and so she had to take care of her mom. So this meant she had to take some time out and couldn't
Mm-hmm.
start her business immediately. Now, while she's doing that, her friends are calling her. Ah, come for this opportunity, do this, do that. But she's lost confidence because it's been a while. Now, I share this story to say two things. The first thing is, if you are feeling like an imposter, address the situation that has brought you there. Sometimes life has a way of knocking the wind out of you. And when it does that, it can affect other aspects, right? So you lose out on an opportunity, you have to take a break from work, you fall pregnant unexpectedly. All of these things, when life happens, sometimes it has a way of taking the breath or the oomph out of you, the motivation. So when you're dealing
Mm-hmm.
with imposter syndrome, I think the very first thing is to actually just really challenge, what situation is making me feel this way, right? Because confidence is a muscle. It's not fairy dust. It's not something that they sprinkle on you and say go and perform, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
muscle. So once you address what the situation is, so look at it like going to the gym or whatever, right? If you want to build muscle, you have to work on your diet, right? Work on what has brought me to the gym. Then the next part is, you need to surround yourself with friends, ambitious peers that really push you to see yourself if you can't see yourself, right? And I think when you're able to marry those two, it's easier to push through with imposter syndrome, right? Because it doesn't matter if I say to her, so this is my client, I was saying, look, you have 35 years. I don't understand why you are. It doesn't seem logical that somebody with 35 years would be doubting their experience, but she is. And that's because life has happened. She took a break, and she has all these doubts that are coming. So the advice is, tackle the situation that has made life a bit turbulent, address it head on, understand that that is a situation, it's a storm, it is not your life. Then surround yourself with empowering people that would empower you, people that see your value. If you need to get a coach, whatever the case is, so that slowly you can start to build the muscle of confidence to attract and go for those opportunities.
Wonderful. This is taking me back to something you had shared earlier, where you talked about, this was when you were at the job where you realized early that you didn't have the technical experience. You said you spoke, I think you said you spoke with your coaches. So at what point did you realize that the next step would be to engage the services of a coach? And what would be, there's many different kinds of coaches. So even going back to this example with the client of yours in South Africa, how does she even know which friends? Because sometimes, your friends have different interests, right? So is it better to go with a coach? Is that the easier
Yeah.
route as opposed to trying to identify your friends within your network that might be supportive, resourceful, hold you accountable?
So sometimes I think it's a combination, right? And I think that's such a great question, Chika, because sometimes we give this advice, but then the practicality of it also needs to be explained. So
Mhm.
for me, what happened for me was I was going the journey on my own. So when I left, I did the foolish thing of leaving my 9 to 5 without having another source of income, right? I jumped head in and I said I was going to teach women self confidence because I'm a confident person and I can teach women how to be confident. And so I organized an event and nobody paid. Now bear in mind that I had set this up after this is going to be my new income strategy, teaching people to be self-confident. And now nobody has paid. And so at the time, I did have a friend who used to teach her thing then was she still does it now, is teaching people how to monetize their gifts, right? And so I remember I went to her name is Stephanie, and I went to her and I said, Stephanie, you know what? I'm tired of doing this my own way. I can't do it anymore. Show me what to do. And I think that within, if we're honest, within your circle, there's always somebody. Because I always believe that my personal belief is that to get to your next level, you have the people and the resources around you. They may camouflage as something else. So for those who maybe don't have a coach like I did, or okay, friends, just find a friend that is doing something that inspires you, and you can start having conversations with them, right? Oh, I'm trying to do this, but I find that I'm finding it very difficult to do this. I'll give you an example. At the beginning of the year, I had big money goals, really big money goals. And I started reading books around the money goals and all of that. But I
So you mean
find,
you mean this year, right? Because this year
yeah,
we're only 4 months in, right?
yeah, beginning of this year, 2025.
Okay.
And you know, big money goals, all of that. And then I'm reading books, trying to be more investment savvy, all of that. But I didn't realize how I was leaving money on the table. And so I have a meeting yesterday, just yesterday, with a friend about something else, business related. And in conversation, she just says to me, she's buying XYZ, she's making this real estate investment. And I'm like, I don't understand. How are you able to afford to make this investment? And she now said, I'm an entrepreneur now. I'm making money. I'm doing this. And I'm like, I'm an entrepreneur too, but I'm not making this kind of money. And I said to her, I said, you know what? Every Friday, I'm going to come to your office and I'm just going to sit with you. And she's like, no, Gloria, I don't have time. I said, I don't care if you have time or not. And I put it in my calendar. And that's what I'm going to do. Every Friday for an hour, I'm just going to go sit with her. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. What should I do? Do you see what I'm saying? Is that I have a goal. I understand where I'm trying to go. I saw someone who is there and has passed it. And I'm like, ah. And I've known her for years. And she even said to me, but Gloria, I've had these conversations with you before now, but you didn't answer me. And I was like, we had this conversation because my mind was not ready. And now my mind is ready. And so when I was even leaving, I was like, see you on Friday. See you on Friday. And she's like, no, I don't know. I was like, that's your business. I'll come and sit in front of your office. So to answer your question, there will be someone in your circle. There will be something, there will be coincidence that will happen. You happen to be at a webinar and this thing, or you're on Instagram and all of a sudden this thing came up. Seize those
Hmm.
moments. Those are your potential transformation moments. But also be guided. So I'm somebody that is guided by intuition. My intuition quotient is quite high. So and I move based on my intuition and my spirit. So I'm also able to know when something is for me and when something isn't for me. So not everybody is for me, and I'm not for everybody. So also be guided by that.
That's amazing. So at this point, we can pause for questions. If anybody in the audience has questions, feel free to post those in the comments. You know, you actually answered the next question I was going to ask, which
Oh,
is,
really?
yeah, how do you become your own self starter where there are no known models or frameworks or examples that are accessible to you? So you kind of address that, whereby your friend has your friend is the example that you want to follow. At least you want to understand what it is that she's doing differently that has gotten
Mhm.
her the results that she has, since that aligns with your goal, your money, your goals to make more money this year. So it kind of ties in with what we clearly acknowledged not too long ago, that community, having those conversations. I don't think there are any stupid questions, because if I have that question, I'm sure there are 20 other people who have that question, right? And there might be somebody just in your immediate circle that might have the answer, or knows somebody who might be able to put you on the right track. So it's always good to have those conversations, and it's encouraging when you reach out to your friend. She didn't say don't come. She just said I don't know, and
Mhm.
you never know what's going to come out of that conversation.
But
Just
I'll tell you what, Chika. One of the things she told me is her daughter's birthday on Saturday. I'm sending her cake for her daughter's birthday. She doesn't know it
nice,
yet. Right?
nice.
So these are
Mm.
little things that you do so that she knows I'm serious. I mean, when she sees, she's going to know it's bribery and corruption for her time, right? She's going to know. But that's what I'm going to do. Another thing that I also did when I was starting my coaching practice. So when I started my coaching practice, Chika, coaching wasn't as popular, especially in Nigeria, as it is now. I think coaching is more of an accepted occupation now compared to like a few 2016, 2017 when I started. Now, one of the things I did then was I Googled top 100 coaches in the world. And I read all their bios. Somebody had aggregated it in some website and everything. And I started reading all their bios. And you know what happened? For some people, I'll read their bios and it didn't do anything to me. For some people, I'll read their bios and I would literally want to somersault off my chair, right? I met this lady, I saw this lady online and she was teaching people how to speak,
Mm-hmm.
right? How to do public speaking. At the time, I'm still here. Okay, good.
Yeah,
at the
perfect.
time, at the time, I didn't know that people would pay to learn public speaking. This is like 10, 11 years ago. Like, huh? Things like that. And what happened was, I remember then there was this coach in America. I saw her profile and she was talking about personal branding. And I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. This is the name. This is what they call it. And I joined her newsletter. I sent her an email saying, "Oh, hello, my name is Glory from Lagos, Nigeria. I came out across your page, all of that." So remember, I told you I'm great at building connection and rapport, and so I did that. And then when I could afford it, I took her course. I was active in the community, made a few friends in the community. So she has this refresher course that she also does. I would show up for those and everything. And then one day I said to myself, I was like, oh, I should email Susan. And once in a while I'd just send her an email. Sometimes she would reply, sometimes she wouldn't reply. And one day I sent her an email and I said, you know what? You always do these webinars for your clients. I'd like to be a speaker on one of your webinars on so and so topic. And she's like, oh, that's a fantastic idea. I'm going to get a group of you to do that. And that's how I turned up. Look, the email I sent to her was maybe 2016. This happened last year. So that's all like about 8 years of building this rapport, right? And then now being on her stage, speaking to her audience. But the story doesn't stop there. And this is a coach in America. I'm based in Lagos, Nigeria. She got an opportunity, and the money they were offering didn't make sense for her. And she recommended me, right? So we've never laid eyes on each other, like physically. I've never met her physically. This is just email correspondence and online engagement. So can you see the value of a lot of times people wait to build the bridge until they need it?
Mm.
If you build the bridge, if you don't know anything about networking, build the bridge before you need it. One of the things that I do all the time, people that inspire me, people that I love the work that they are doing, people, whatever it is, I always connect with them. Always. I never know when I'm going to need it. Never
When you
know.
can, how do you connect with them?
So it depends. LinkedIn is a great resource for connecting with people, right? So if I see somebody I admire, I like, I send them a message on LinkedIn, send them a connection request. Sometimes they reply, sometimes they don't reply. It's okay. It's fine. I'm connecting with 10, 20, 30 people a month. So, it's all right. He's not the only person in the world, right? So that's the thing. You can't take these things personally. So that's the first way. Secondly, physical connections. If I before I go for a speaking engagement, I check who is speaking. I read their bio and I send them a message beforehand sometimes, or I send them a message after. I really like your talk on so and so. I love what you said. I'd love to connect, whatever the case is, right? For some people, we might go out for a coffee. For some people, it's just online interaction, and that's okay. But you're building that. I don't need them for anything. I don't need them for anything. I just want us to be connected because I'm inspired by what you do. I enjoy what you do. I like how you. They don't even have to be coaches. They can just be people that, oh my goodness, I love how she showed up. I love how authentic she is on the stage. Whatever the
Mm.
case is, we connect. And I always like to leave a trail when I connect with people. So an email, a message, whatever the case is, whether they reply or not. Why? Because it gives me something to go back to when 4 years later I need something. So I went for a conference in South Africa one time. I don't know why I keep mentioning South Africa, but anyway, I went to a conference in South Africa one time, and there was this very senior leader that I met, right? Very, very senior leader. And there was nothing. There was nothing. We're not in the same sector, nothing. He worked for one of the big fours. He was a partner, one of the big fours. Nothing was connecting us together in this life or the next. But I collected his card, and when I came back to Nigeria, I sent him a message. Oh, we met at so and so. I think we met on the one of the shuttle buses going for the conference. And so I sent him a message saying, "Oh, blah 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 blah," and all. And for the next, LinkedIn does this thing where it reminds you about your connections' birthdays. And for the
Yes.
next 4 or 5 years, I would just send him a happy birthday. Some years he would reply, some years he wouldn't reply. But then when I launched my platform and I needed a big thought leader to come and share, because he's he shows up a lot on LinkedIn, I sent him a message. And guess what? He looked at it. This girl for the last 5 years had been sending me happy birthday. I'm going to have a conversation with her.
Brilliant.
I built the bridge before I needed it. Sorry, I'm over
Brilliant.
talking. Let
No,
me
no,
let
no, no, no. I'm really enjoying because these are very helpful tips. Because sometimes when we are speaking in what I call platitudes, for the person who comes across this maybe later on watching the replay, I think these are very, very helpful tips. Have you, having said all this, because it seems to me that from you identifying that you are a good networker, that you like to be resourceful, you like to connect people. And not knowing on at the time not having the language, but as a result of your research you came across the term personal branding. And with personal branding, confidence is a very big aspect, right? You really have to work, breed, live, confidence on a daily basis, right? Have you ever, I'm sure you have, and I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase handling a crisis of confidence, right? Right. So, what will you say? How do you get to the point where you can fully own your confidence and walk into a space like when you saw the guy on the bus? I'm sure, you didn't think twice about it, but the average person would be like, we don't have anything in common. Why do I have to engage him? This is one less person I need to talk to. He might dismiss me. So I think it's coming from a very healthy place of confidence. But have you ever had to deal with a crisis of confidence? And, if you can elaborate some more.
Chika, many times. And many times I say I'm great at networking. I failed at networking too. I remember another conference I went for, and it was a very high level conference. I was sponsored to go for the conference. And when I got into the conference, there were many leaders, like leaders of privately quoted companies, right? And I felt at this time, I think I was just maybe I was within 10 years in my career, right? But I felt like such a small fry. And Chika, I'm gonna be honest, I stayed in one corner of the room and I didn't move. And I sipped my drink. And after a while, after one drink, I went back to my hotel room because I really felt small. And I felt like I didn't deserve to be in the room. So remember what I said earlier about confronting situations. Instead of allowing that to be my norm, I started asking myself, Glory, what really happened to you in there? Why did you freeze? Why did you not walk the room? And I started to realize is because I was supported to go for the conference. I wasn't it wasn't really, it was one of those things where it was actually a World Economic Forum thing, and as a global shaper, we got scholarships to go for the conference. And so I really felt like a small fry. I'm a shaper. These people are the top leaders, you know. And then and that's when I started to work internally on myself and just say, look, you are a person of worth. And if you are ever in a room where you are the smallest person there, adopt a posture of learning. That's not where you are fighting for air. It's like it's saying, okay, I'm grateful to be in a room with all these amazing people. What can I learn? Who can I meet? Right? And that's it. So that's where I came up with the concept of mindset shifts in different situations. So that was the first time. Then I think it was last year, I was going to speak on an international stage. I think I was breaking it, breaking it. And here's the thing I realized if you're doing personal branding correctly, every once in a while, you're going to be, because you're building upwards, right? You're getting on bigger stages. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to get on a stage that frightens you, right? Because you're going to be like, oh my God,
That's how you stretch
how?
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, what did I do at the time? There was another lady in the conference who she's a public speaker and all of that. She coaches people and she's my friend, right? Again, one of these things, relationships I kind of nurtured. So what I did first things, practice, because confidence thrives on practice. So even though normally I'm not a scripted person, I really prefer to go unscripted. But because I knew that, look, this one is a serious matter, I wrote out everything I was going to say and I practiced and I practiced and I practiced. And then I went and I had a conversation with this lady. And she was like, Glory, why are you nervous now? You can do this now. This is not a big deal. I was like, it's a big deal to me. It's a big deal to me. So what should I do? What should I be conscious of? All of that. And she was like, and she cheered me on and she's like, Glory, you can do this. I've heard you speak before. You know, you can do this. She cheered me on, gave me a few tips here and there. And I went in and I smashed it. Even if I say so myself, right? I smashed it. And there was a point on the stage where the nervous the inner me took over. I don't know. It's kind of when I'm speaking, there's a
Mm-hmm.
point where the rehearsed part falls back, and the core, the person that has the substance, comes forward, and then you find that you're not pushing air. It's easy, right? You're speaking from who you are, from your essence, from your core. You are enjoying the stage, you're walking the length and breadth of the stage, you're enjoying the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Once that happened, I relaxed and I knew, okay, we're doing this right. So yeah, so to summarize for those that are listening, or that will listen later, first things first, when you're in a room where you feel small, don't don't sit in that mindset. Adopt a posture of learning and just be excited and be grateful to be in that room. That's what I should have done that day. Secondly, when you are facing an opportunity that feels bigger than you, don't wing it. Practice, 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 because that's what goes into your subconscious. The practice, and then find whoever can encourage you, can equip you to succeed.
Oh, that's amazing. Those are very helpful tips. I'm sure that whoever is watching this on the replay will definitely appreciate this breakdown. I like the fact that we're giving practical tips, not just speaking in platitudes. And then you walk away and like, okay, what was that about? So we're about rounding up. So I'm going to read a quote. Okay, yeah. So IO says, great point. How do I pin this? Let me see if I can actually pin this. Put you back. How do you pin a comment?
So if you hover over,
Oh, there
yeah,
it
there
is.
you go.
There it is.
Yeah.
So great point that planning ahead and saving your tokens to cash in when you need it. Um, to cash
Stay
in when you
ready.
need to. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Exactly. I like
I love
that.
that.
I like that. Um, so the other thing is, and I'm just going to take you back. So I was trying to make the connection in the course of my research. I see that we have Glory Academy, 9 to 5 Chick, Discover with Glory, and then the LinkedIn Visibility and Thought Leadership Branding Coach. How do you know from, because I think that there's an Inspire series. Where does that kind of tie into all of this, and what are these different components?
So in other words, Chika, you're saying I should connect the dots.
Yes,
Connect the
that's right.
dots. Okay, so when I started out, remember I told you I was finding my feet, right? So when I started out, I had, remember I mentioned to you that I was interviewing women that I felt were doing awesome in their careers and in their lives. And so those were just one-on-one conversations. And then I thought, you know what? These conversations are amazing. I should open it up to other people. And at a point in my life, I used to be a features editor of Bella Niger. This is ages ago now, right? And so I had that platform. And so I would share the interviews on the platform. I would transcribe the interviews. And then actually, when I got tired, it would take me weeks to transcribe the interviews. And I thought to myself, why don't I just create a talk show? Why don't I just create a talk show? And Chika, I'll tell you the truth. When I was thinking of creating a talk show, I thought, no, Glory, the camera adds 10 pounds. You're already 20 pounds overweight. So this is going to be an extra 30 pounds. You're not ready. You're not ready for TV. You're not
Negative
ready for
self-talk. I'm sure we can all
exactly.
relate to it.
Exactly. And then after a while, I said, okay, I'm going to lose 20 kg and I'll do my talk show. The weight never fell. And I thought, you know what, Gloria, liberate yourself and go as you are. I think I even gained weight while I was trying to lose the weight. Anyway, and so this is how I launched the talk show. So Inspire series. So Inspire series then later became Inspired by Glory. That's how I built the company. And so
Mm.
before then, that's where you have discovery with glory and other things I was doing where I was just trying to find my space and my place in the world, right? Um, so inspired by glory, we started first of all with, like I said, confidence coaching, networking coaching, then visibility. But really, my goal really is to focus on career women, and like I said earlier, really break down the barriers that prevent career women from excelling and
So what do
attracting
you mean
top
by
tier.
barriers? Just to be clear.
Yeah, so those barriers could be anything from imposter syndrome, from just understanding how to navigate office politics, understanding how do you build key relationships for career success, just whatever challenges career women face, right? And those differ from five, depending on how many years you spend in your career, you come up with different kinds of challenges. So with 9 to 5 chick, what we are positioning 9 to 5 chick to be now is for early career starters. So those people who are, starting out their career up until those trying to enter management level, right? So they are early career starters to mid management. And then Ascent is for women who are they're already in management and now they want to become C level C level
C-suite.
directors, C-suite,
Okay.
yeah, and
Mhm.
board roles, right? So those we're essentially focused on pipeline development of female talent, African female talent, both in Africa and in diaspora. So
All
that's
right.
that's the dots connected.
All right. So I'm just typing something in the comments. So what I'm hearing you say is essentially pipeline development, irrespective of where you are in your career. But does that also apply to entrepreneurs, business owners?
So I think with Ascent, we are
Hmm.
because of the mindset shift required to make that transition. entrepreneurship will definitely come into it, right? Because a lot of women are CEOs, but they're still very operational in their businesses. So there will
Right.
come a time where we will focus, we will create opportunities for entrepreneurs. But at the moment, if I'm honest, I'm focused on career women.
So is this an accurate summary? Pipeline development for early career, 9 to 5. That's a 9 to 5 chick, 9 to 5 chick program, and then
Mhm.
Ascent is for C-suite.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. I didn't realize that. I didn't even make the connection to Ascent, but that's good that you clarified that. Um, so as we wrap up, I will read a quote, and I want you to tell me yes or no and why.
Okay.
So let's go. Let's see. Um, and there's no right or wrong answer, right?
Mhm.
So a sign of wealth is no longer needing an alarm clock to wake up. Do you agree? A sign of
No,
wealth is no longer needing an alarm clock to wake up.
no, I don't agree.
Why?
Because I think wealth requires discipline,
Hmm.
and for me, my alarm clock builds discipline for me. I also think that I'm also learning. Remember, I mentioned to you one of the things I'm doing this year is just learning about money, and I'm reading this book, The Psychology of Money. I forget the author now, and one of the things he says is that wealth is silent, poverty is loud, right? So a lot of the things that we see as wealth, it isn't. So I think that the truly wealthy people are very disciplined people. People who have built their own money are very disciplined. Yeah.
You know, I agree with you. I, for one, I don't wake up with an alarm clock.
But you have a
So
time where you
my body just knows when to wake up, right? And when I was thinking about this, in my opinion, for me, I would say yes. The reason why I say yes is because um, when I get to a point where I'm in control of my time and I don't have to be guided by quote unquote an alarm clock, to me, that is empowering, that is freedom, that is wealth. Because the reason why a lot of us are doing the different things we're doing, be it a 9 to 5, building up funds for a rainy day, for retirement, is so that we can reclaim our time. And to me, time is wealth. So,
mm,
like I said, there's no wrong or right. It
of
just,
course,
again,
of course,
different perspectives, right?
yeah,
So, but I do
yeah,
appreciate what you shared because I wasn't even thinking about it that way. That yes, you have to be disciplined. You have to be mindful of your time. We only have, we say we have 24 hours, but by the time you deduct sleep, uh, eating, any other activities, how much are you left with? So it's to use what is left of the day to optimize it for success, right? To optimize for success,
completely,
whatever that
completely.
is. Well, I really enjoyed this time with you. Again, you have your own ideas or I had my own ideas of how I thought this was going to shape out. But I really like the fact that, we were able to connect the dots. And what is one takeaway you would like the audience to leave with?
I feel like in this conversation, we've really spoken about confidence, and if there's one thing I really want women to take away from this conversation is to own who you are.
Hmm.
Just own who you are, and as I say this to people listening, I'm saying it to myself. Own who you are in the full ramification of it. I was listening to Bozoma, um,
St. John.
former, yeah, St. John, former
Was
marketing
it
director for
Amazon?
Netflix.
Oh,
Yeah,
Netflix. Was
and
she was she was
yeah,
she at Amazon or I can't remember. I
I
thought she
can't
was
remember, but I think it was Netflix.
yeah. Okay.
But anyway, she's a famous marketing director, and
Hmm.
she was on the Breakfast Club, and she said every pot has its lid. You know, and if you know Bozoma, she's very strong, very, some people would say in your face, you know, all of that. But what I learned from that is they were asking her a question around, you know, calming down or just being different for in terms of relationships. And she said, no, you know, this is who she is. And I think more women need to be like that. More of us need to be like that. Now, this is not an excuse to be rude, to be mean to people, to be, you know, whatever the case is. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that we are all different. So many times I hear people say things, oh, Glory, you know, you can be a bit too sensitive, you can be a bit too this, you can be a bit too that. And sometimes, you know, you're upset about something, but you don't want to say, and it's eating you inside and all of that. And I think we just need to, and whether it's work or in personal relationships, we just need to get to a place where we own who we are and we use that to navigate the world and realize that, you know, there's value in who we are, and let that liberate us as opposed to holding us back. Oh, I can't do this because, you know, I'm such and such. Oh, I can't do this because, you know, people say this about me. All of those things is it's leading to different levels of negative self-talk that's holding you back in ways you cannot imagine. So I think what I would say is we need to own who we are. Change, obviously, change parts of you that require changing or better part of you that requires betterment, but fundamentally own who you are at work, in personal relationships. Own that. Yeah.
And I think there is something to be said about a level of introspection, a level of
Mm,
self awareness for you to come to that, or come to that decision that, you know what, there is work to be done. It is not
mm,
about, 'cause, you know, it's very easy to project onto others and say, that is the reason why I'm responding in this way, or that is not the reason why I'm responding in this way. But you're not acknowledging the part that you have to play. And, you know, to your point, nobody's going to do that for you, right? Nobody's going to. And what will happen is, going by your example, if you keep on internalizing and internalizing, one day you have an outburst and people are like, but you never shared that those were your concerns or those were your struggles. Some people might say, well, they don't want to be judged, or they don't want to be um, seen as that person. You want to see as the one that is very amenable to change. You're the one that is easygoing. You don't give any troubles. You don't, you know, you're not the one to shake things up a bit. But in your mind, you'd like to be like that person that can stand up and say, you know what, I am owning it with my full chest. Am I going to lose some friends along the way? Yes, but I'm okay with
it's
that.
okay. It's okay. It's okay.
This has been very good. Thank you very much.
No
I appreciate
problem.
your taking the time to walk us through and help us connect the dots of your story. So, till next time, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.